So coming off of the previous chapter, we found out that Naoya was still just pretty much a cursed womb. And as soon as he took damage, he metamorphosized into this demonic looking metapod, which is like his second form, I suppose, of potentially 3. And this thing is ridiculously powerful. I mean, we already saw how powerful he was originally. And at the end of the previous chapter, he winds up hitting Noritoshi as if he was like All Might or something. And that brings us to the beginning of this chapter, where we see Noritoshi actually surviving it, because it turns out that at the last second, he was able to throw up like a blood barrier. And he says, if I hadn't blocked with my blood, I'd have lost my head and arm. A momentary misstep could mean death. I need to raise my game. So yeah, Naoya is unbelievably powerful right now. Like, even Noritoshi is admitting, like, if he basically just gets hit cleanly once, he's pretty much gonna die. And I speculated in the previous review that Naoya might be one of, if not the strongest curses that we've seen so far. I mean, it's ultimately debatable if he's like as strong or stronger than the big 4 disaster curses, but as far as like speed and strength goes, I think he might be at the top right now. And I say that also because of how he's dealing with Maki at the moment, who has, you know, full-blown heavenly restriction. Hey, also guys, if you like my Jujutsu Kaisen content, please subscribe if you haven't already. It's fine if you don't want to, but if you just need a reminder, here you go. Thanks. But speaking of Maki, we see her intercept Naoya as he's trying to follow up on Noritoshi, and they wind up like clashing, I guess. But then Noritoshi wraps up Naoya in a crimson binding so that Maki can wind up getting a clean hit on him, but Naoya winds up spinning out of this. So not only is he super fast and super strong, but he also still has retained his, I guess, pretty high fight IQ. Then Naoya reveals to Noritoshi that like he is Naoya Zenin, and I guess this wasn't really made completely apparent to Noritoshi beforehand. I mean, obviously we, the audience, and Maki knew. And Noritoshi says like he fell to a curse but retains this much of his own ego. Okotsu's Rika is easier to understand. So that is pretty interesting. Also because I guess this is the first time that we've ever seen this happen like real time in the series, like a sorcerer getting killed without jujitsu and becoming a cursed spirit. We'd only heard about it before that. As we're with Rika, of course, she was just like a regular human who was cursed by Okotsu upon her death. And Rika's intelligence seems to be very limited. She kind of speaks like a caveman, kind of acts like one too. As we're with Naoya, he still pretty much has his full-blown personality and memories. Only he's like more of an unhinged version of himself, of course, because he's like a cursed spirit. But I think that this is probably going to come back into play later on. Like, I think it's being mentioned here for a reason. Then Maki reveals that he can in fact still use his curse technique, which is projection sorcery. And this is something that we had been speculating about the past couple weeks, because it was never really confirmed nor denied if he was able to use it yet. I mean, we assumed that he could because of how fast he was moving initially, because we know that the fundamental that makes Naobito and Naoya so fast was consecutively using projection sorcery. And speaking of that, we see Naoya use it in a very different way here, because he starts freezing frames of air and he hits them and it causes like all of these explosions. So he's able to do this because of like the penalty aspect of projection sorcery. The user maps out like 24 frames of animation and then they move accordingly. But if they touch someone or something in this case and that doesn't move at 24 frames per second like the user is, then they'll be frozen in a frame of animation. So we saw before that Naobito was able to like freeze water in his fight against Dagon. So it's understandable that you could freeze air too, I guess. Even though you're like always moving through it, I guess you just have to mentally make a note that like, hey, I'm touching air here. So then he winds up breaking away from Maki and Naoya so that he can get some space away from them, because he's essentially trying to charge up at full speed so he could just hit them with one massive attack. Because Noritoshi says like he'll charge once he reaches top speed. How fast is that? And Maki says, well, he was faster than sound before. So, I mean, already as like a human, when he was originally fighting Maki, it had said that he surpassed subsonic speed. So yeah, he's way faster now as a curse, but we'll see later on that he goes unbelievably fast. But speaking of his original fight with Maki, she remembers back to that moment, because she says, yeah, if he's gonna come for us at the speed of sound, then we can prepare our attack and wait for him. It'll be like that one time. And that one time is in reference to chapter 151 when, like I said, she was fighting Naoya as a human. And basically basically, as Naoya was like consecutively using projection sorcery and becoming so fast that he was surpassing subsonic speed, Maki basically realized that like, okay, I'm just gonna stand here and wait for him to crash into me, and then I'll be able to counterattack at that point. So she goes into like this sumo stance, and at the last second, Naoya realizes what she's doing, and he tries to spin around to her back, also trying to freeze her in a frame of animation. But Maki's perception at that point in time had become so high that she finally realized the secret to projection sorcery, and that he was moving 24 times in a second. And once she was able to finally see that, she turned around as he was coming behind her and landed her counter strike, which basically ended the fight there. But obviously things have changed since then, since he's way stronger now, as we've been talking about. And Maki winds up throwing like these spike jacks things. I don't know, they're like some kind of ninja things. I don't know. I guess this is just a deterrent for him coming forward. But also, I think these things may come back into play in the next chapter, possibly, because we don't really see anything come of them unless they explode as he's coming in. But as he is coming in, he's kind of like making these circles, and it's revealed that his new cursed form here has like the principle of a jet engine built into it, as to where like he could take in air and then eject it for increased propulsion, essentially out of like his butt, I guess. But this is like why he's so insanely fast, because it's not only just consecutively using projection sorcery, but it's this jet engine thing as well. And at the end of the chapter, we see him coming in full force, and he winds up actually hitting Maki, and it's revealed that he had reached Mach 3 speed, which is like a little over 2,300 miles per hour. So yeah, just think about like a jet flying overhead. It was pretty much like that, and I'm sure it has a similar amount of force hitting Maki here. And like I said before, she was perceptive and fast enough to be able to counter Naoya previously, but now it's just a completely different game, and she just wasn't able to counter this, and she takes it like on the chin. And I don't know if this has like completely defeated her or if she's KO'd here, because her eyes are open, but they definitely don't have the same amount of life in them that they did have previously. But yeah, this really isn't looking good for Maki or Noritoshi, who is clearly weaker than her. But also, I just finished reading all of Bleach, and this fight, more so than the others I've been reading recently, remind me of like a Bleach fight, because the antagonist has become so unbelievably powerful that it's gotten to the point of it's like, oh, well, how is the protagonist supposed to win this? So unless there's some kind of divine intervention here, Maki is going to have to pull something out of her butt, I guess, to win here. Or it's going to be revealed that there's still levels to the Heavenly Restriction game, and that she hasn't fully unlocked all the power yet, or something like that. I mean, also, like I said in the beginning, it's implied that there's like another form to Naoya here, so I'm really curious to see how this plays out. But let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. How do you think Maki and Noritoshi are going to get out of this? And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.